Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Phyllis Morris Green, and I am from Reimagining Our Communities. We are an organization of organization. Our goal is to bring voter education to the table and to bring organizations to the table to discuss critical issues. And the purpose of this program is there are several local seats that are up for election. And we would like for you to consider running for one of those seats because your voice is important and yes, you can do it. So thank you for being here. And at this time, I will pass it to Ms. Wright.
Good afternoon. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this session. I am the advocate for social justice chair for the High Desert Pearls, for Alpha Gamma Iota Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, forever known as the High Desert Pearls. So we have 6 initiatives that we are working on, and this particular initiative is our Advocate for Social Justice initiative. And we want to help bring community awareness to public office seats that are available and knowledge for anyone who has aspirations to run for those offices. So thank you again from Alpha Kappa Alpha, AGIO, and I'll be passing it on to family assistance.
Well, thank you for having us here again. And I would just like to say my name is Sir Duplashawn with Family Assistance Program. Family Assistance Program was started in 1985 as a domestic violence shelter. And throughout the years, the agency has grown into so much more. We now have a much larger shelter, transitional housing program, a separate outreach office, and satellite offices in the cities of San Bernardino and the High Desert. We have embarked on several new programs: 2 runaway homeless youth shelters, a homeless youth street outreach team, youth drop-in centers, the Next Step reentry program, community centers, and anti-human trafficking programs, and other programs and services to support the needs of the Victor Valley and all San Bernardino County. Soon, we were hoping to have the website completed by this meeting today, but hopefully we will have it done before July 1st. But it will have not only these recordings, links to these recordings, but also a lot of pertinent information for those of you who may want to run for office. Next month, July, is the time to start pulling papers for many of our cities in the High Desert. Some of the cities haven't got a confirmed date, but all of them have confirmed that it will be in the month of July. There will be a lot of historical data on this website also that shows who has run for office before, who the incumbents are, a profile on each of the incumbents. So give you that little head start on making that decision if you want to run for office. So we look forward for you guys to take advantage of all the information that we have been providing to you all throughout these several months, working with Campaign in the Box. And with that, I'll pass it on to Campaign in the Box.
Great, good to be here today. Well, I'll give the truncated version of our intro because if you're tuning in to our 6th and final seminar, you'll have heard this time and time again. But Campaign in a Box is chiefly led by myself, Pete Alessandro, and Nicole DiMaria, who are on the call. We are a group of seasoned electoral workers who have worked together a lot over the years, but most where we birthed Campaign in a Box was on the Bernie 2020 campaign in Iowa and California and several other states. We started taking a look at the field of candidates in the Democratic and progressive movement and decided that we wanted to open up our institutional knowledge on best practices for a campaign and how to work everything from fundraising on through media and field organizing, and open that up where there wasn't a certain financial class of consulting that was, $5,000, $6,000 a month just to answer an email. we thought we need to level the playing field. There's a lot of good candidates out there, a lot of good community activists with a lot of great ideas. They just need access to the information and the best steps on, how to build the infrastructure of a campaign. So Campaign in a Box was born, and we've been operating now for nearly 5 years. You can take a look at our website. We've built a lot of successful campaigns. We've done a lot of work all over the country, including in the high desert Inland Empire area, San Bernardino County. And we're really, really proud of the work that we've done. We're happy to have participated in these seminars. And I will kick it over to Pete and Nicole if they want to add anything.
No, we like Rod said, we've and excuse me for being just on my phone. I actually live in Des Moines, Iowa, and we got hit with some really strange wind and rain weather, so I don't want to mess everything up by going back and forth. I know I've done this before, but actually I just wanted to thank all the folks that gave us this opportunity. This has really been a joy for us. I just think it was an absolute really great idea, and we are actually very proud that you let us be part of it. We think some good will come of it. We know some good will come of it. And anything we have said over the last 5 meetings hopefully has been helpful to folks. And actually, and I'm going to leave it at this, and I'll go back on mute. I'm kind of looking forward to just getting some wisdom sent this way from Basil and Lizette today. I really am looking forward to that, and so that's where I'm at with it. And I'm going to be that person that's getting the good stuff sent to them, and I look forward to that also. So again, thank you for the opportunity, and let's go on from there.
Thank you. So today we're going to lead off with two special individuals who are local. We have Chef Lizette and Chef Basil present with us. I've known them for several years now. Chef Basil, I probably known a little longer. He and my father used to run the streets working campaigns. And
I don't know how that sounds, run the streets.
And then I had an opportunity to actually work a campaign with Lizette and Basil, and I learned so much. It's what you don't know, right? They are owners of management business, and my iPad just went out on me. Management Business Services. It is an international company. They began in 2008 and is now 2024 international. So they have services from 17 e-publication, media strategies, business strategies, and political consultants and advisors. And I noticed that Chef has placed their website link in the chat. So right now I am going to turn it over to Lizette. Welcome, hi, and I am excited. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, but you sound kind of far away.
That's because Basil has this thing.
Hold on, I'm gonna turn mine down.
I'll put it on mute so I could go on.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna put mine on mute. Hold on. Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
Basil, you have to turn your computer on mute, not just your Zoom. Your computer. Okay, so Phyllis kind of say what we did. Basil and I have been doing this kind of campaigning and consulting. Basil's been doing it for over 38 years, and I've been doing it for 27 years. Our clients go from local to assembly, Senate, state, Congress, and measures and propositions. So we've been there, done that type of thing. But we also have done other things. We will help start business plans. We also do strategies, and I'll do statistics for our clients as well. On our website, you'll see who our clients are. And we've been going up and down California, you know, we're all statewide, but then we started a few years ago going statewide. We get calls from Utah, Georgia, Carolinas, Virginias, Alabama, Georgia, yeah, I said Georgia, right? So we've been going all over the place. And of course, Nevada, we're in Nevada when Hillary was there. And at the same time, we hosted room and board for Bernie's people. We got a call from Risa, I think it was Risa, right? That some Bernie people were coming down, some volunteers, and they didn't have any place to stay. And she says, well, I know you guys have a big house. So of course we offered the house. And we had 4 of them here with us. And it was so funny because they told us, this is the best place we ever stayed, because I would send them back to the volunteers out there in the field with a lunch, you know. It was like a lunch bag, you know, you send your kids to school. So anyway, it was really a pleasure to have everybody here. But Basil, you want to add some stuff there?
Everybody, okay, you turn yours down. We happen to be in the same office. So yeah, so that was, I think, I've been doing this so long, and how I got started before I met my wife. I remember the current VP, the vice president, when she was the attorney general here, they didn't have any money. And so because we had our large publication, I think at that time we was only going like to 2-3 million people. So, well, let me back up. Feinstein first gave me my opportunity when I worked for her on the media, and we developed the media team with them. We kind of saw in the future that that technology would be the future. And how that came about was that they got my best friends that I went to college with from the LA Times, the Washington Post. They had told me that newspapers were going out of business pretty soon, and some of them did, like the Herald Examiner and the LA Times, they're almost out. So we had to figure out another way to make money. So we started our e-publications. And from there, it kind of grew. We used to do it for free at that time. You know, we just wanted to give people the opportunity. We were very fortunate to help Kamala Feinstein and then others from that point. So it actually grew into a community affair, then a business. And then we started giving back. We started learning, as you know, I'm sure Roger and Pete could tell you, money's the mother's milk, the campaigning. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And I'm going to use my own wife as an example later on down the road. So we started, you know, my wife with her master's degree in business started putting together the stats. So then we moved up here, and we just couldn't understand why we're all Democrats up here, just about 80%, but the Republicans control Victorville. So you can, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. We've been up here, the parents lived up here for 4, 5, 7 years. And so all that time we started developing with candidates. Then eventually we got our break. I got my break really with Kamala, but I got my big break when I think it was Elaine. When Elaine ran, I am now currently her appointee as a disabled veteran, and my wife is currently the appointee for the governor for the county fair here. So we started learning from there, and then we help people like Fiona, Shirley Weber, Ricardo Laura. I mean, just various people. Alex Padilla. And then the big one was when Adam Schiff wanted to run, and everybody on this side wasn't for Adam Schiff. So at the convention, I said, hey, we down with you, what you need for us to do. He says, hey man, do your media thing. So we did our media thing, and you know, God bless me. A lot of people helped on that. A lot of, I mean, that, and it's still gonna be tough. So getting back to the presidential campaign, when we was doing some stuff back then, it was kind of rough there too, but what we learned was that even though, and like I said again, and I'm gonna always refer to Roger and Pete because they really understand what I'm getting ready to say. I mean, they're professionals. I highly respect them. our firm respects their firm as far as all the stuff that they've done. That if you're not organized, and Roger's a great organizer, if you don't organize, you know, that's half the battle. If you're not starting 2 years in advance, you know, you're done. I mean, you have to start raising that money. A lot of people think that they can just wait, you know, for a certain, you know, like 6, 7 months before, and that's not happening. And I'm gonna give you a good example that I'm gonna pass it on so we can get into the program. My wife ran 3 times here, 3 times, $80,000 a piece for a local city council seat,
45 each.
45 each. And so you would think that with us winning all these national and local campaigns and federal, that it would be a breeze. Sir can tell you what happened. Well, it wasn't. People just didn't come out to vote. We tried, and my wife is a Latina. We tried to get we kind of worked out if the blacks came out and the Latinos came out, that we would have nothing's guaranteed, but we at least have a big chance. Man, we got swiped. We got swiped.
Not the third one.
Well, okay, we lost by 100 votes. But my point is that we had the finances, we had everything, but we didn't have the people. They just didn't come out. And this is why I'm glad Roger and Pete and Phyllis, they're doing this, because they just didn't come out. And I use my wife as an example everywhere we go. So the question is, how do we start getting them out? You know, that's why I'm glad that everybody's on here, especially for this upcoming campaign. I don't understand, Roger, how Trump can be a convicted felon, 34 counts, and still be in the running to possibly be the next president. You know, I'm just trying, yeah, I'm just trying to understand that, but I'm sure, you know, Roger and Pete will have some stuff down the line. But that's kind of how we got started back in the day. And then we decided that, seeing that I'm retired now, we was just gonna put all our money and stuff and trying to help get people like Phyllis and $1 Million, and then the AKAs and the Deltas, to try to help them get their people elected. So that's kind of in the short, and we can talk about all that stuff later. But I'm gonna turn it over now to Phyllis.
Thank you. So I understand, Lisette, we are actually going to start out with you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're actually going to start out with you in terms of your presentation. And Roger is going to chime in. And his
Great.
staff. And then when you're done, Roger, we will pass the baton to Roger.
Sounds good.
What's up?
Okay, but I need, do I have shared screen?
Does she have shared screen?
Let's see. Yeah, Kennedy, did we set that up yet?
Yeah, she should be able to.
Yes, you should be able to.
And I'm sorry. Hello, Nicole. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing fine. Can you just?
I think I need to share.
See if you can make me call so I can get into my share.
The host disabled my participant.
Oh,
I made you a co-host, if that helps.
the host, she
I made
says
you co-host, yeah.
you disabled her.
I also made you a co-host. Would that work?
Yeah, make her a co-host.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lisette, can you get in?
No.
Yeah, I think the participant screen sharing button is still off.
Basil, can you get on?
I tell you what, can you make me a co-host?
Lisette, you're now the co-host. Try again, please.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. You done?
If you're having problems, I can try to pull up the slide deck. You sent it to me. I do have it up.
Yeah, I can't get onto it.
Tell you
Oh,
what-
wait a minute. Let's see. There we go.
Okay.
Okay. So here we are. That's our campaign network.
You're on mute.
Oh, you have to mute yourself, Basil. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So this is where we started, and we talked about a little bit about our business already. So let me go to our next page. And when we talk about networking, we talk about two main things. That's in-person and virtual. And the in-person, when you're starting to do your campaigning, the best thing to do is to attend events. It could be church, community events, meetings, and I'm talking about civil meetings, which is your city meetings, your water agencies, of course, your Board of Education meetings, and your nonprofit organizations like the ROC and the MMKs, and then your Chamber of Commerce and whatever else that is up here. You have a whole bunch of nonprofit organizations such as Family Support Program. And then you have ROC Disabilities. There's so many that you could actually go out there and start meeting people. Then of all things, always carry a business card, whether it's your business or just your own personal card with your name on it, your phone number, email address, but always give them something for them to know who you are. And then when you're at these meetings or events, there's about 4 or 5 questions that, well, 4 questions that you could really try to keep a conversation going. First of all, introduce yourself. They won't know who you are unless you introduce yourself. Ask them to talk about themselves. There's some people that love to talk about themselves. Then how do you connect to them? You ask them, what do they do at work? What do they do? And if it's in an event, and this is a if question, what do you think of the event so far? It's just a starter conversation that you want to do. But the main thing about this is that networking is about building genuine relationships, especially when you're campaigning, because that's how you start your own little group of networking relationships. That's how we started. We started with 128 contacts. And now we're at how many, Basil? We're at 60 million contacts. And that's not including what he has on his computer and my computer. We have to divide our computer networking because it holds so much information. And that eventually will be yourselves. So by having your own network and your own contacts, that's how you get to know people around the high desert, even statewide, and eventually, of course, nationwide. The second part of networking is virtual. Participate, in attending webinars and virtual meetings, and always introduce yourself in the chat room, your name and who you're representing, or just yourself and saying, I'm a future thank you, candidate. I almost forgot the word. And then, of course, there's times that you might have extra time. Go and research some webinars. You could go into small business. You can go to Eventbrite. There's always there. Or SCORE. SCORE always has a lot of things. But always keep yourself trying to get networking contacts. Basil, did you? Oh, Roger, do you have anything to add on that one about networking?
Oh, no, just in total agreement with you on that. I was just, when, Pete and I and Nicole know specifically just how hard it is as a candidate to build for your own events. So when you have these community events already set out there for you, that is just something that you need to take advantage of it. And it seems like it's this would be common sense, but if you are going to be, a candidate, you got to show up, and you got to also show up and talk to people. We've had candidates before who they show up and then they hang in the back of the room and they don't feel compelled to, get out there and mingle. And it's like, well, you're not really here if you're not doing the networking. So yeah, I'm totally in agreement with everything you said so far.
Thank you. And sometimes it's nice to take a friend with you, because then you don't feel insecure and you have somebody to talk with. And that way, like I said, you feel secured. Basil and I usually go together, or I start taking a friend with me, because this way everyone will be able to see not just one person, but two people. If the person that you're with is also a candidate, even better, because now you're both out there networking together. You might talk to somebody that the other person missed, and then you are together in the car or in the parking lot or in the cafe and start talking about the event you just went to. So again, what are you doing? You're networking with each other as well. There's a good example here. We have Chris Ochoa, who's running for Hesperia, and yet he's also helping Derek Marshall with his campaign. So they work really, really well together. And also Ricardo Ortega and Kip, they're all together with Juan Carrillo. And of course, I think it's Lisa Middleton. So they're all together, and that's a good way of networking, because they can all help each other. So that's a good way of doing things. So let's go to another slide. Do you have anything to add, Basil? No.
Okay. One thing, this is Pete. The one thing I would add, everything you said was so spot on. But the next step to that also is.
Now, this is the big one. And this is your social, various social media. On the internet,
sorry,
we have several internet places that you can go to. And we're talking now for the campaigns, and we're talking about cost. And you could go either pay for your ads or just not pay anything and just do your posts. You could post your events with no cost. But if you want your ads, which will pop up every so often, then you're going to have to put that in your budget. And the big thing is later on is your budget, and your budget's going to have to be extremely big. And yeah, that's pretty big right there, that budget. Right, Basil? Sure, go ahead.
Lizette, can you hear me?
Put your mute, you have your mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Lizette, Pete had a comment.
Oh, I just wanted to bring up that, first of all, that was a really great point about hitting the built-in event, especially for candidates that are just starting out. One thing we always try to get our folks to do, if they can, in other words, I agree with Lizette, you go to anything you can go to, but the next level, if the situation arises, is if you can find somebody within that group who is a member to be that person that you're going around with, the introductions become much easier, and your ability to just have those conversations that middle ground step kind of gets taken away because it's, oh, this is Joe from our group. He's introduced you to other members of the group. And so it was just something I want to add to it. Everything said was exactly right, but there's that other piece that when it's there, if you can get somebody from the actual organization to be that person that's kind of your body person, you're even taking it a little bit to the next level to make it a little easier for yourself.
That's true. That's true. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Hello?
Yeah, we can
Okay,
hear you.
so next I want to talk about the various social media, which you guys are very good as well. So we just put a few on there, Facebook, LinkedIn, a Legend, YouTube. I think the primary ones that have been doing well for us, everybody uses Facebook, whether they can afford it or not. The young generations, they're very smart and intelligent when it comes to being techies. And so the Gen X, the YX, I guess I'm the last of the baby boomers, I think. You got all those other people, that are just coming up, they're just so brilliant. And so a lot of these young men and women who are running, everywhere they go, they have a phone, they have a TikTok, they have the Instagram. And we try to tell them that they should hit every social media that they possibly can. And you'd be surprised, Roger. Some of our clients, they kind of disagree with us. And, we try to tell them a closed mouth never gets fed. And like you said, and just like the gentleman just said, when you're out there, you have to look for these particular things. Right now, people are starting to go to more Snapchat, WhatsApp, Skype. Even Skype's coming back. Skype had died down for a while. iMessenger, FaceTime. We try to tell our clients, anybody that wants to listen to you on any type of social media, talk to them. Because you never know who knows somebody next door. You never know who knows somebody in your community. And so Lisette's very good on trying to develop the message, the platforms we'll get into later, but it's very crucial to have some type of social media. And a lot of people, a lot of these candidates, they can't afford the paid ads, or they can't afford as you see on Facebook, the boost. They got this thing now that you can boost your stuff. Well, a lot of people just can't afford it, but we can talk about that at the next go around, the budget comes around. Roger, do you have any questions or anything to add to that?
No, just I think the only things that I have to be additive to that is just, in recent years we've seen, apart from getting your message out there via social media, it's also been a helpful way to, once you've got that tweet out there, once you've got that post out there, you also link your ActBlue page, so it's
Right.
pretty good way to raise some, some small money donations that we've seen, and I'm sure you all have seen as well. And then also it's kind of become a breaking news frontier for, candidates will put out a statement via social media or comment on something, and you've got your local or your national reporters following your accounts as well. And so it's why you need to obviously be careful about what you're putting out there on your social media, but it also is helpful because it is a way in which you can get a write-up in some earned media, just based on a tweet or a Facebook post that does well, and things like that. Basil, to your point, Nicole actually is our young Gen Z tech extraordinaire at Campaign and Box, and so she actually kind of handles a lot of the paid social media, that type of thing. So I wanted to give her a second to just talk
Oh, good.
about
Okay, good.
paid social media while we're on the topic.
Yeah, so in recent history, we've really seen that Meta, which is just Facebook and Instagram's parent company, kind of have a stronghold among older voters who are also the more likely voters. So to your point, Basil, it can be very expensive to do digital advertising. I usually find that it is one of the most expensive parts of a campaign, other than running ads on actual TV networks. The nice thing about the Facebook advertising is that you can put in very small amounts of money. Like you can even do $5 or $10 or $20. And for a small campaign, those 3,000 or 5,000 impressions can be huge. And I'd say definitely it's more for exposure rather than those donations. If the donations happen, they're great. But a lot of it can just be getting your name out there to the folks who are on Facebook all day, which, is, like I said, older folks, working folks. A lot of people use Facebook, and just having that additional part of name recognition can be huge. I've also seen, some candidates are really winning the game on TikTok and Twitter. Those are harder platforms to advertise on, but you can also get more traction on them. So a lot of it's just knowing your audience, knowing what the folks following you want to hear or wouldn't want to hear. Not changing your internal message, but just, thinking to yourself, okay, which of my policy positions can I write a snappy 2-sentence tweet about versus the ones where I need a couple paragraphs. So it's just making sure that you're keeping it concise, because, if I'm a Gen Zer, when I'm on my phone, it looks like this. I'm just scrolling. And if it's going to be longer than this on my screen, it's gone. It just goes away. So just make sure you keep that messaging very concise.
Excellent. You have anything else to add to that?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of different types that we do have. And a lot of people also use WhatsApp because they do texting and video messages and voice messages. Then you also have, of course, the Messenger, but the one I like to look at is TikTok. Instagram is still pretty good. And let's see, Twitter. I'm trying to think what other ones. But the one I prefer is, your video, YouTube. You could also do YouTube. Make a little video and put it on there. And that could go a long way, because once you do your video, you just link it and send it out on an email or on texting. So a lot of these internet and your cell phones, if you can do it with not any cost, try it to use them as much as possible. And just watch what you're putting out there. Because as Roger said, the reporters will come back at you if it's the wrong thing that you said. So it's just a matter of wording. That one little word can get you in trouble. Anything else, Basil?
No.
Oops. This is our main one. And is, as Roger and Pete and the young lady, you'll know about this one, because this is, you have to have a plan. No matter what, if you're going to have a campaign, make sure you have this plan. And the plan, of course, is know what seat you are targeting and try to be involved as much as possible, as soon as possible. Even if you have a little idea, you know what? I just might run for the school board. Well, with that idea, start making your plans and start attending the Board of Education meetings, go to your community meetings. Whatever you do, invest your time in what you really want. Basil?
Yeah, can anybody still hear me? Okay, yeah, that's, in fact, this whole section, which I really want to get into with Roger and Pete, it's kind of like the meat part. So many people, I'm sure, come to you with these thoughts and these ideas. And as I stated earlier, some people don't have a plan. They just wake up one day and say, I think something happened yesterday, cause and effect. And I don't like the way that school board person said this. So they decide that they want to run, but they don't know where to go. Again, and that's why I'm glad Phyllis is hosting this. As Lisette said, we need to have people that can help to design a plan. And from that plan, what we do, Roger, is that when I first got started, my wife first got started, it took us several years to understand why we had to come out 2 years in advance. You know, that was something that we had to learn, because even though we were going to so many people daily, because we own 18 different publications, I'll never forget that. I don't know if it was my sister or somebody said, "Hey, you're supposed to be this big time chef. Use yourself to get people out early." And I didn't even think about it then. You know, I said, okay, I'm gonna do that. So then my wife told me the same thing too. So as people started to want to run, we asked them, how far in advance, when's your election? And when they started saying 2 or 3 years down the line, then my wife came up with a plan based upon what we were doing, that we would try to make the candidates a household name prior to the kickoff of the elections. And it started working like, I mean, it really it worked out well. Case in point, like right now, even though the party elections are next year, but we're already promoting people who want to run statewide. And even with the upcoming election, we started advertising Biden last year. And I'll tell you who does that real well. And I really, really hate to say this. Trump has been in the news. He's the only man I've seen that's ever been in the newspaper every day since he lost. Every day. It's mind-boggling to me that they always manage. And so, that's why I'm kind of worried. Well, I'm not that worried that much now because of his conviction, but at some point, I'm sure everybody was worried. But he kept getting that name ID, name ID, name ID. Well, that's another good example as to what Lisette and I do. When a candidate wants to run and we start talking to them, we try to get them out there at least 2 years, no less than 2 years. We try very hard to do that. And then the next thing, even if it's like once a month, twice a month, because we have the capabilities of going out 20 times a day if we want to. We also have the capabilities of responding. And Roger, I'm sure this has happened to you. Sometimes you get people who attack your candidate, like attack. We've had candidates where they got attacked at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 1:30, we had a response. We had some candidates who got attacked 2 o'clock in the morning. By 3 o'clock, we was already on API and CNN. And so again, it's that rapid response. Let me shift gears for a moment. This is something I want to talk to you about, Roger. Budget. What's your thoughts and ideas on how you do your budget? And number 2 is budget and fundraising, which is a key part. What are your thoughts and suggestions on how you guys intertwine that with what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's always the constant battle, right? It's just like how much money's in the coffers, how much we expect to come in, and how do we play with that money for paid communication or just, field every aspect of the campaign. We've just been on a couple of these calls this week with some folks gearing up for the general election into November. Big planning summer of how that works. And the reason we're having those calls now is, we like to work backwards from election day and basically hit all of our benchmarks in each silo of the campaign. So it's like, okay, well, we know we're going to do a GOTV. How much do we expect that to cost? How many, mailers are going to be associated with that? How many, boots on the ground do we need? And just keep working backwards from there. Do we have the money to, do you think we're going to have the money to be on broadcast? What does that look like? How many mailers are we going to drop? All that type of stuff in a move back from the election, knowing that, more generally the electorate is going to start paying attention closer to election day. And then that, as we sort of work backwards, that starts to get us a pretty good figure of where we want to be. The sort of like a gold standard of like, hey, if everything goes right, here's the money line you should hit or be aiming for. And then we sort of build out 3 different tiers. We build out the Cadillac plan, we build out, you know, the mid-size, you know, the sedan plan, and then the real grassroots, like, hey, if we're operating on shoestring, here's how we here's how we can maximize our outreach. And as you know, you just talked to before, that has a lot to do with, you know, trying to expand our digital presence, where we can, you know, put some money into there, or just try to maximize our earned media opportunities if we know we're not going to have the budget for that 30,000 foot cover, like mailers and TV broadcast and all that type of stuff. So the short answer, and I'll kick it to Pete if he has anything to add, is we like to build out those kind of 3-tiered campaign plans. And as as our candidate progresses into call time, and we get a sort of a general vibe of like, this is how much money's coming in every day and every week, then we can sort of forecast out, you know, how we're gonna spend from there.
That's great.
Yeah,
because-
that's what I was gonna add. Everything, again, Roger explained exactly how we try to present it. The other thing it does, and Raj kind of actually touched on this right at the end there, was both if things don't go as well, or if things go better. One of the reasons we draw it back from election day is every time we have a meeting, we can look at the calendar and say, okay, this is what we have in the bank. This is what we have raised. This is what we're projected to raise. And here's the 2 projects here are the 2 projects that are starting right now. Are we able to do it the way we thought we would, or do we have to adjust, or can we adjust up? So that's the key to drawing your calendar from election day back. As you're raising the money, you can then look at it, since you've already made that plan, as Basil said, because you've made that plan, you now can make you can make really good decisions on what the next step is. So that's all I would leave that at.
So what we tell our clients is that for Assembly and Senate, we tell them your low should be 100,000. That's where you should start at. Raise up to 100,000. After a certain point, then you go beyond that. Now, for those that are running for city, depending on what city, how large that city is, at least 20,000. That should be the low, is 20,000. On my case, I was self-funded, and each one of them I spent 45,000. So even though I did that, I still didn't make it, but I missed the second and the third one by just a small margin. But again, it's all about fundraising. So I tell our clients that are going for local seats, what will you do first? Start with your family, invite your friends over, have a barbecue, get together, and start raising that little money. That little 2,000, that little 3,000 is going to get you over that little hump when you get there. But once you do that, and you have your fundraisers, and you have an idea what you would like to do, you write that down on your budget. I want to do your mailers, I want to do radio talk, I want to do slates, the ones that you buy like from Cops or from, what was the other ones that we use, Basil? We use every single one of them. I can't remember all their names now. Lacey, and I can't remember all their names. But all those slates that go out in the mail, if you want to use each one of them, you have to write down the budget for it. So then that's part of your plan, So then when you actually get your monies, then you have to figure, and there might be a time where you say, well, this is how much money I have, and for this amount I have postage. How many do I want to mail out? So you have to kind of budget yourself with that alone. So then what's the next step after you get your fundraisers and you have your budget? The next part is your grassroots strategy. That grassroots strategy is the boot on the ground, and you have to look at your precincts. So you look at each precinct. Do you want to go for those that have low voting outcomes? Or do you want to go to the ones that always have the high voters that come out and vote? So that's another strategy. Where do you want to spend your time? I mean, even with your mailers, the same thing. Where do you want to go to get those votes first? If you want to get the people that don't come out and vote, make phone calls, do your texting with them, but spend your money wisely when you do your grassroots strategy. And so that, you know, what I did was I got the map and I looked at the voting. You all use PEI. So you look at that and you look at your statistics on there. I do statistics all the time. So you have to look at where you want your votes to come out from. Then when you do that, you also have to think about harvesting those votes. Harvesting those votes in those certain areas is essential. I lost by a little bit over 100 votes, and we thought we had it, but we found out later they did a lot of harvesting, more than we expected. So you have to really think when you do your planning, your budget, your fundraising, your grassroots strategy. So Pete, how do you guys do that for your candidates on your grassroots strategies?
Yeah, Pete, tell them the Willie Sutton story.
Yeah, I mean, you just said you set up the story that I always tell our folks is, you know, that Willie Sutton was the old bank robber down in Texas, and they finally caught him. And as they were taking him away, somebody from the press yelled, why do you rob banks? And his answer was, well, that's where the money is. And what we always say is, you know, exactly what you just said, go where the voters are. The point you made that was really good that I want to double down on, though, is every campaign's a little different. Some campaigns, the proper strategy is, for instance, if I had a Democratic nominee running in a district that was already 65% Democrat, the strategy would be, let's get to every single Democratic door and make sure every one of them votes. If I was running a candidate in a situation where it was 40% Democrat, we would then say, well, we're not just going to win with the Democrats. We need to talk to some independents. How do we do that within our regular field program? And then, of course, the point you made, very good one, of when you can, you also try to reach out to see if you can add anything to the mix. But the bottom line is you go where the voters are. And if it's going to take X amount of votes, and we just did a race in Iowa, and we knew what the vote numbers were. We knew what it would take to win. And, you know, we're here to win these elections. We're not here to comment on what it means. What the next thing I'm going to say means to the overall democracy. But basically, we were in a district with I think it was 17 precincts. And anybody who looked at the numbers knew there were only 2 precincts that mattered. There were 2 precincts you had to go to win the race. And, you know, that's what we did. So it really, I'm just doubling down on what you said and saying it a little differently, but you're exactly right. You build the grassroots, to answer your question, plan to where are the voters that you need to get to 50+1. And you know, we always say 50+1, but usually when we're doing our targeting, we targeted at 52, built in a little bit. But the point is, you go to where the votes are, and then that's where you put your boots on the ground. That's where you do your volunteer network if you have it. That's where you hit the field, and you know, you're hitting enough precincts, enough voters to get to the magic number. You know, we work in some places, you know, some of the states we work in, the state legislative races are so, the districts are so small in terms of voters, you can literally get to the win number just on the door with the candidate if you draw the stuff right for them. So now when you're out there in those same precincts with your team, you're actually just adding to the mix. So keep that in mind too. I mean, and again, we work in, we work in some places where literally only not only, 600 votes is going to win the primary. There's going to be, 800 votes in the primary, 401 is the magic number. So in those cases, it's the same theory. It's just smaller. We know we can get to the win number now. We can literally talk to everybody. But it just goes back to what you said, is knowing where the voters are, knowing how to reach them, and getting to them.
Right. Hey, Pete, I want to ask you a question while we're on
Yes.
this. So out here in California, we've experienced, along with the other candidates, the Republicans seem to be very good of harvesting. I think recently, the Dems out here have tried their best, but they harvest because they know that a lot of their people sometimes they don't go to the polls; they do the absentees. I mean, it's been a proven point. Dems, they're not that big on vote by mail, which I just can't fathom that why. Because
It's literally just the opposite where I'm at. In the Midwest, and I think it might. It's interesting that you said that, and I'm going to let Roger speak to it because Roger's actually out in California. But in the Midwest, it's just the opposite. The Dems for 20 years now have really been. It's the advantage we have in a lot of close races. Is the Dems have gotten so much better at the early vote and harvesting the early vote that what we have found in our state, I'm talking about the Midwest now, in the Midwest states that are not blue. So I live in Iowa. We also do some stuff in Missouri, Oklahoma. We've worked in. What has happened is in states that are not blue, when the Republicans actually take over, they actually limit the harvesting. Like in Iowa, since they took over the legislature, the Democrats were so good at it that they've made it illegal. You're not allowed to harvest anymore. The only person that can bring the absentee ballot to the if you're not mailing it, the only person that can bring the absentee ballot to drop off is the person whose ballot it is, or they have a small list of relatives, a daughter, and you have to prove it, because we were beating them so badly at it. But even that anecdotal goes to your point on it's actually malpractice not to be good at harvesting. The fact that we got so good at it that they changed the law actually shows that if you do it well, and it, to me, in a place like California, where you're going to have the friendly legislature, they're never going to pass bills to make it harder to do. I agree with you. I'm not speaking ill to folks I don't know, but they should have the best harvesting program in the country in California. They really should. Your point is exactly right. That's just insane. And I'll let Rod talk to it because he's actually there every day. But
yeah, I mean, every campaign is unique, but what I can say from a little bit of experience is, I think a common mistake that might get made by some Democratic candidates is that they stay in the persuasion lane for too long, a little bit too long into the campaign calendar. And when when ballots drop, there should be an immediate strategy, an already established strategy going into effect on, okay, we have this target universe. Now, how do we, and everybody's got their ballot. Now, how do we just make sure that we're shoring that up and making sure everybody's getting their ballot in,
Oh, sorry, Raj. If Nicole has a second here, Nicole's actually done some really good text programs when it comes to GOTV and chasing, quote unquote, chasing ballots to the extent that we can chase them. I'm thinking about the Larry thing there, Nicole, if you want to speak to that, the McBurney.
Yeah, so recently in Iowa, we were working on a campaign that was at the state level. And when those ballot drops, we sent a text to every single person we had identified as a supporter saying, hey, ballots are getting dropped off today, you're probably going to get one in the next couple days. Make sure you mark, McBurney for State House. And we've done this, numerous times throughout campaigning, where that day that those ballots drop, we switch right into that, make sure everybody's marking down your candidate on the paper. The week before it's due, another text saying, hey, mail-in ballots are due in the next week. Some states, they have to arrive at the election office by election day. Other states, they have to be postmarked by election day, which means that you can drop it at the post office on election day and it'll still be counted in however long it takes. So we always are sure to say, like, a week before that deadline, hey, if you haven't mailed it and it's sitting filled out on your kitchen table, today's the day. Or, you can bring it to this location and drop it off. You can surrender it here and vote, in person instead. And just really making sure that we're connecting our supporter base with that voting information, because it can be very hard to parse for people who don't do this for a living. So yeah, I would just say text them very frequently, and in that final week before election day, you're sending a week out, the day before and the day of, no matter what, with your texting.
So Nicole, you just hit a real sore spot with this. We do that as well. Out here in California, they have it so in certain areas, they'll open up, like at a city hall or something, where you can go vote early. I mean, you can, in California, they have different areas designated. Like, for instance, if, let's say we have an election, what we do in November, in some places out here, like our city hall, they'll open up in October, to encourage people to come. Let's give another example. We own 10,000 phones, probably a little bit more than that. And we have a veterans program, because I'm a veteran, where across the state we have, we designate so many phones to various candidates. And the meat of our whole campaigning is chasing ballots, calling, texting, repetition. And can you believe, after all sometimes of repetitions, we'll call back the same day. Did you send your ballot in? Oh, California, I mean, it's crazy. It's just so crazy out here. Now down south, I remember, I can't remember that senator who went down in Alabama. We helped a couple of years ago, or even was it Georgia or somewhere? I think it was Georgia. They thrive on. I mean, they'll light up, But in California, in my opinion, I mean, even though I do a lot of stuff here, it's complacency.
Oh, yep.
I mean, we'll go to their homes. In fact, we can do better than that. My wife and I are national chefs. We'll cook for them. We'll have a big old thing, and they still forget. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this is a subject we touched upon a little bit in a previous session, but I think this is a particular problem that happens when you're in supermajority states, and you do have, if you do have a deeper red district within a very blue state, there is sort of that mentality from both like national partners and state and local partners that says kind of like, well, we've got enough, so we'll just focus on where we've got gains and where we've got a lock, and we'll not necessarily forget about those districts, but obviously like the resources, the allocation of resources just don't fall to a lot of those candidates, and then it becomes a chicken and the egg scenario. It's like, are we not winning because it's still a deeply red district, or is it a flippable district? It just needs the resources, but we never do end up finding out, because it just creates a cycle there.
Right. So let me give you another example, then we can move on. So when my wife ran, first we ran citywide, and it was like 218 or something like that, I think, twice. And the district, in fact, let me go one step further. We filed and paid to have the best attorney in the world to put us in districts. which would give the opportunity more for Latinos and African Americans to vote in a district versus citywide where, you know, they always lost in the past. So even doing with that, there was a decision that we had to make. People were saying, you know, why register people to vote when we got enough voting here, which is true. You know, why spend the money? And then on the other hand, I said, well, we need to try to get every person we can. Have you experienced in some districts where people people have told you we're so heavily Democratic, or we have a large majority of registration that we don't need to register anybody else in that particular area?
Yeah, I actually, and sometimes it's even more nefarious than, hey, we want to spend the money. And I would still argue against that, because especially if I'm bringing more votes out, even in an area that normally is going to win every single local election, that still helps the governor candidate but
Exactly.
I have found, so I think it's a little more nefarious sometimes than that. I grew up in Chicago, very machine town. And when you got down to the nuts and bolts of it, a very Democratic town. You know, I think 49 of the 50 wards when I was growing up, starting to work, had, you know, the aldermen, they have 50 aldermen, 49 were Democrats. But the problem was, yeah, it's a Democratic district. My Senate district, my alderman district is Democrat. I win it 75-25 every time. I don't care if it's a new person. I don't care if it's a Democrat or not that's a new person. I don't want them there because I don't want to take a chance that there's going to be anybody there going against I don't want anyone I don't know. It's the old Chicago line was, we don't want nobody that nobody didn't send. So they didn't want to increase. They didn't want to increase the voter rolls because they knew the 6,000 people that voted, even though they should have 15,000 people voting, they knew they were going to win with the 6,000 every time. So why expand it and make the primaries possibly tougher, or make it so that maybe their anointed candidates don't win? And like I said, that's more nefarious, but it actually happens. And that's another reason why in a lot of these really deep blue places, they'll use that other thing as the excuse because it's a little more logical. But really what they're saying is, hey, I got the 6,000 people I know I can control. I got the 6,000 votes I know my people are going to win with every time. I don't want to make it 12,000. I don't want these primaries to matter. So it's, you know, it's part of it. And it's, you know, part of the things that has to be fought sometimes.
Right. Hey, Roger, we've said a few things. Why don't, can we hear now from you guys in regards to some of your agendas, some of your plans? And
Yeah, for sure. I think, one of the agenda items that we were going to talk to you and Chef, you touched on it, was just an overall, and I think this sort of like can fit into even marketing your plan for your constituents, but just campaign communications and public relations as a whole. I've spent a good within my wheelhouse of campaign in a box. A lot of what I do is both our interior communications, but also our exterior communication. And so we're talking everything from rapid response to press releases to advisories to direct media interactions and media training. So I can send it. We don't need to go back and forth and share or take off the screen sharing and that type of thing, but I'll send it along a bit later in the chat. For and this is just examples. This is stuff that us as presenters know, but just examples of press advisories and press releases that would go out. Just the structure. This is just the structure of them. I would say, and we could get into you know, a conversation on this, but just one of the real, I would say, tactical things as you're building out the campaign in terms of public relations is you want to have most of before you even do any sort of announcing of the campaign, you want to build out sort of that, you know, communications calendar as well. When are you announcing and what needs to go into that type of thing, whether it's a policy or a campaign launch. You want to have those benchmarks built into, you know, making sure that you've got your press release ready to go with your announcement. If you are doing an event, making sure you send out a press advisory with the details to let the press know that you're going to be there. And also, even before that, just building out a press list. I mean, that seems pretty basic, but those are incredibly important steps that you need to, you know, when we're talking about a campaign that needs to maximize its exposure and its budget, we're also talking about earned media here in a big way, because the amount of eyeballs that you get on a TV segment or print in the local newspaper, in the daily or even your weekly, that just goes, you know, that goes a long way. Hey, it's going to cost you 15, 20, 30, 40 grand, depending upon the size of your universe, to send a mailer. But if your op-ed or your news piece can get in the newspaper, you know, the daily newspaper in your district, hey, you've gotten thousands of dollars worth of free media there. And so in order to make that happen, you have to start with the building structure, those structures of making sure that you have, you know, an up-to-date press list of who the press are in your district. Making sure that, you know, every time that you have a campaign event or a policy launch or a campaign launch, whatever it might be, something that you feel is newsworthy, that you are not only inviting voters to it, but you're also looking at how can I make the most out of this? And usually what making the most out of it is adding a fundraising element, making sure everybody's fundraising to you, and then everyone's donating to you, and then making sure that, you know, if you're having a campaign event or a constituency event with another organization and you've got 20 people in that room, that's great. That's a good campaign event, good for networking, probably good for fundraising. But if you got a TV camera there, that event just went from 20 people to potentially, you know, 20,000, depending upon the type of media market you're in. So that was just, you know, that was another element of you know, earned media that I wanted to sort of dive into if y'all had some experience you wanted to talk to there.
Right, you know, and the marketing plan, as you were talking about right now, we also, for our local people here, we also have radio stations that will actually do interviews on the radio with no cost. So that's an essential part of the marketing plan, to have your marketing plan where you can mark down, you're going to talk to the radio on this day, you're going to go to this place over here on this day, and do your emailing, your advertising, your marketing, as just what you're saying. Now, when you look at your larger campaigns, where I say assembly, then you have a manager to do all your press releases and all that. But for locally, you could have your own little manager. Your manager will do it, and hopefully they're not costing them as much. So if anything else, I think here we do radio. Radio is your best thing here, because you go out to a vast a number of people. So that's part of the marketing plan. And then, of course, we talked about this earlier, Facebook, putting out your ads, putting in your postage, doing all that. And then along with your marketing plan, you have to think about your mailers. You talked about I think you wanted to talk about mailers. Your mailers here, you're looking at, when we do our publication, we could go out 2 years from the day of your election. With your mailers, because depending how many you want to send out, it goes back to your budget now. Do you want to do your voters that come out, the ones that don't come out, who do you want to market? And what age group do you want to market to on your mailers? So there's a lot of possibilities that you can go out to. So when you do your budget, you have to distinguish what groups are you going to send out your mailers. So how do you advise your candidates, Roger and Pete, on your mailers?
Yeah, that's a good one, and we've and you know, for us it varies within, you know, the size of the electorate. You know, we did a San Bernardino County supervisors race that, you know, we were, you know, based on the amount of voters in the budget, we were like, hey, like if we could do a 5 to 6 flight run, you know, that 5 to 6 piece run of, you know, an intro piece followed by a few policy endorsement piece, you know, we're trying to, you know, tell that story. We will. And then we've done races in the Midwest, like Pete said, in some of those smaller electorates where one bio piece and one validating piece of the endorsers and that type of thing can get the job done, especially if some of the other candidates in the race you know, can't afford mail. But basically, you know, we definitely you know, I'll let Pete and Nicole speak to their element, but we're big believers of especially in local elections, of if you can do mail, you should do mail. It's essential. There's a reason why, you know, every November or every October you're getting 15 pieces of mail in your mailbox every day, whether it's from campaigns or independent expenditures on behalf of campaigns. Like my friends are asking all the time, well, how do I stop? Why am I getting inundated? Why? And the answer is simple. It's like, it still works. That's why you're getting the mailers. And so you know, you know, I think a little bit of what we've been seeing and what we've been changing a little bit about our mailing strategy is just what's been helpful in the advent of peer-to-peer texting has been, you know, if we're trying to budget in a way where we have a tight budget for our mail flight, and we know that we can send the mail piece digitally to younger voters who may have just been on the cusp of our target universe, we'll take them out of the mail universe and text them a digital version of the mailer in a way to save money and shorten our universe a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of where I'll leave it at. Pete, do you got something you want to add there?
Yeah, and I would even say, if we're talking perfect world, because a lot of the decisions, that as you brought up before, is based on budget. So let's say we're in this perfect world where the budget isn't a concern. The money's been raised. We want to do a program the way we thought we could do it. We've always recommended that you really should do no less than 3 pieces, because what you're really doing is telling a story. And we've been on campaigns that have been successful enough, and the candidate was good enough at it, that we were able to raise enough to do a full 6 or 7 piece mail plan. And really then what you can do is you can basically lay it out like it's a different chapter to the book. That also allows you to do separate GOTV mail to the folks that you want to do some of the things we talked about earlier. Make sure they vote, make sure they get the early ballot in, that kind of thing. So we really believe that when you're able to do it, not only is mail important, when you do it well, it isn't just the one piece. It's to, you know, you introduce the candidate. You get people to you know, to know who they are. Then you start talking issues. Then you know, and then of course at the end you circle back to the narrative and the, you know, the original introduction piece of why they're running and whatnot. So this is certainly a place where depending on where you live in the country, the costs are very different. And I get that. But we have often even, because we think there should be more than in the best world, a multitude of pieces. We have had campaigns where our advice actually became, let's tweak the universe just a little so that we can get, 3 or 4 pieces instead of saying, oh, let's just do one piece to this bigger universe. So I want to, and every campaign's a little different, but that's just a point to remember.
And yeah, just one specific thing I forgot about and would add would just be we look at the mailers also in the greater context of what other paid communication is going to cost. What is the cost of the digital sphere? But in particular, I can give an example of, we helped advise Derek Marshall in his previous run for Congress in the 2022 cycle, and what was the unfortunate realization when we went to go through our media budget is, the 23rd is, has a little sliver of Los Angeles County, but it's entirely within the Los Angeles County media market, which is one of the most expensive media markets in the country to buy broadcast and television and things like that. And so, so we're always, we're always, when we're budgeting out how much investment we're going to make for mail, the fundraising is obviously the main driving factor, but then we're also looking into, do we have the money to do TV or broadcast or over the top stuff with streamers and that type of thing in comparison, and will we get the same amount of like direct targeted impressions that we get and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but this will be helpful information for those that are tuning in, is that the reason why direct mail continues to be important, because it still remains one of the best ways that that you can target your universe specifically. Facebook and YouTube and some of the over-the-top streaming services have gotten pretty good at getting in front of the electoral audience that you need, but it's never guaranteed. Same thing with TV broadcast. A lot gets spent on it and it does reach a lot of eyeballs. A little bit harder to judge that it's moving the field. Whereas your paid communication with mail, you have your targeted voter universe, you're going to their door, you're calling them, you're texting them, and now they're getting mailers as well. It's just a layering of your messaging strategy. And so we still as Campaign in a Box find it very important.
Well, what I always did was I had 2 mailers that I saved. One was in case I got a negative mailer against me, which I actually had to use at one time. And another one is when I had a giveaway. So the last one I had was a giveaway of food and clothes. And so I sent that out. So I always do that. I have one in case I get a negative thing that I have to fight back on, and the other is always a giveaway. And if I don't have another bad thing that's going to go against me for me to fight back, then I have 2 giveaways. So that's what I've done. So that's something else. And I do that. And this is local. I mean, it'd probably be different, of course, for assembly, because you have IEs that will help you all the way. But as a local, I think that would always be a good strategy to have at least one mailer that's going to be doing a giveaway. And those people will come. And the last one that I had, they even brought that mailer with them. So to make sure that I was there. And so that's one thing about the mailers that I really like. And I saw in the chat right now that Sir had a comment. And Sir, would you like to say something?
Uh,
Are you there? Oh, there you are.
yes, no, I was just,
Yeah.
just respectfully disagreeing with my limited, little knowledge. You guys are the ones who have been doing this for years, but just because of my marketing, my experience in marketing, I would say there's a lot in today. There's just so many more better ways to spend your money. Like I would, if I was gonna have extra money to spend something on, it wouldn't be on snail mail, just because you could do an MMS market and reach those same people, but at least you'll get those eyeballs on it. Because I know personally when I check my mail, if it's not a bill, it goes straight to, like, where I live. We have a trash can that sits right there in the mailbox area, and everyone just takes all that stuff and dumps it in the trash. And it's kind of expensive. Like I do every door direct mailing, and it is, it's pretty expensive. So I would just suggest personally that if you were going to splurge on something, it would probably be on MMS marketing. I mean, MMS texting.
Yeah, I'd like to, hold on for a second. I would like to add on to that as well. I agree with both of you. What we have found out, this is how our company was formed. We came up with a plan that we discovered a plan on how are we going to help a candidate that has no money 2 years in advance. That's what our whole concept about our company is from, that my wife thought about. And so we had decided many years ago, I think it was like 08 or whatever, that we would, and we only had 128 yeah, in her office, in her house. We decided to start downloading from the various voter registrations around the United States. And we broke it down to assembly, state, money, non-money, estimates, whatever. Here in California, we have about 9 million, we have 22 million registered voters, but only like 9 million sometimes vote. And if it's not 9 million, then it's down to like 3 or 4 million. It depends upon if it's a state or, well, yes, state race. So what we found out is that emailing people early, it's like money in the bank. Now, then we were posed with the question, hey, Chef, well, suppose I got a computer. Okay. So we took some time to develop that mode too, because you're right. Have and have nots, as we call them. I'm sure you've heard that term before. And then we started back then doing just like Nicole said, the texting. But we did figure out that most people have a phone, or they have a friend that they hang out with on the phone. So we had to develop, it was so much doing with the information that we had that we now, kind of got it down to a science. But I agree with Roger. There's nothing like that mail. There's nothing like that mail. The last 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever your money can provide you. But we thought, well, what about the 7 or 8 months or the 2 months before? What is that? Well, like now, this is summertime. All of our candidates who made it into the runoff, if it wasn't for us sending their stuff out right now, every day, every other day, to keep their names in the flow, they'd be lost. Because for them to wait till like September, October to send out the first piece of mail, their opponents would kill them. And so
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe we weren't being clear about that. When we were saying that we recommend to our people that if you're gonna do mail, do at least 3 pieces. That wasn't instead of
okay.
the program, and in fact, we have had some races that we've been successful with. I'll let Nicole talk about this because she does it, where We basically take the mail piece and make it the text. So we're reaching even more people and it's so much cheaper and they're still getting the same message. So I don't disagree with what said at all. He's absolutely right. The next wave until they change it is reaching people through texting. And you're absolutely right, Basil, in that it fills that period of time that when, yes, it would be incredibly for a campaign, not cost effective to be doing 4 months of mail or 3 months of mail. It's not like we're selling shoes or furniture or something. So yeah, let me be clear. I agree with the point that was made. It's parallel to it. It's use the texting all the way up to election day, but also use it when you can to fill in the gap before the 3 or 4 week mail plan starts to make it more effective. So yeah, I'm glad for the clarification. It actually was a good point made, and that's how I would say it.
Thank you. So the next part that we talk to our candidates is have a platform. You already have your plan, like what you're going to do. You do your budget. You've done your fundraising. You got your grassroots put down. You have your marketing plan. You got your markers, mailers ready to go out. But what's your platform? How can you run if you don't have a platform? What are you going to be running on? And so I always tell them, our clients, what do you think needs to be changed? What is there something that the city is doing that you don't like or you disagree with? Whatever they have, and they always say this, for every action, there's a reaction. So if there's something that needs to be changed, have a solution. That should be on your marketing plan. That should be on your mailers. Have it out there, what you are going to represent on the changes in your area. So that's what I always tell them. Okay, like here in the city of Victorville, in 2018, I ran on doing a homeless wellness center. And what happens? I'm not elected, but they sure did use my idea, and they sure do have one now. It took them 6 years to do it. I'm sorry, 5 years to do it, but they used my plan. I had a meeting after the first election in 2018 and 2019. In April, I sat down with the manager and I gave him my plan, detailed plan, how to do a homeless center, a one-stop shop. And sure enough, 5 years later, like I said, they've done it. But the point is, I ran on a platform and they took it. And I'm glad they took it. I'm glad that it's there. So, like I said, every candidate should have some type of platform. Otherwise, why are you mailing this thing out? And on your mailers, it shouldn't be a negative on your opponent. It should be about you. Like you said before, Roger and Pete, tell your story. Have a platform. And that's what we always talk about. And the next one would be know your community. If you know your community, you know their needs. The needs of the city is important, not yours, not your need, your community need. So that's what I have to say. Basil, you want to add anything to that?
I kind of think you hit all the bases. Roger, you have some comments or Pete regarding for that?
No, I mean, just again, agree on that. I think we see, a common mistake that we see from first time candidates is they come and they're like, I'm running because I went to a, city council meeting and I got pissed off at this, and this. And they're like, and that's wrong. And it's like, okay, great. So what's your idea to fix it? And they go, I haven't gotten there yet. So, it's one of those things where you can still be a candidate and have a good origin story and a reason for running and not have a completely 100% full, policy page built on your website, but you should have an overall strategy and a platform and some solutionary ideas on why you're running. Like any especially in your campaign community, any sort of campaign communication, whether you're sitting down for an interview or whether you're putting on a mailer. Yeah, everyone knows what the problem is. Give us something to work with in terms of the solution. And then just the second thing that I would say was that based on what you said about, you ran, weren't successful, ran, had a solutionary idea on a homeless center, weren't successful in the election, but then years on, here's this center, is like that's a big mantra of what we do in Campaign in a Box, is like we always set out to win these elections. That is our focus day in and day out. But equally as important is like we want to build something with a campaign that leaves something behind. That whether that creates an infrastructure from that creates the infrastructure to either come back for that next round and win, or that gets the ideas out there enough, riles up the electorate enough to be like, what, there is this issue and we need to do something about it in order to like make and that's the perfect example, is like you ran on this pillar issue. The election itself was not successful, but it had a lasting effect enough, and the homeless center got into the political zeitgeist enough to have it happen, and that is a success in itself. Maybe not electorally, but for the community, you built something and something got left behind.
Right. Pete, as we wind this down, I really appreciate this conversation we're having, and also, Roger, hold on for a second, that if anything that we can do to help you in your endeavors as well, be free to send it to us, whatever. Our main strength is we're able to get people out early through our texting and through our 18 various platforms we have on our e-publications. That's our strength. That's, as we say, your bread and butter. That's how we got out there. But anything that we can help you guys with, hey man, we in. We all in. Because it's about, you always say you try to get the right person in there. And we've had some failures too now. We get somebody in there that we think will do the right thing, and then 4 years later, we had to take them out. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, but we have.
Yeah.
But, and I really want to say thank you to the Family Assistance, High Desert, Re-Imaging, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Family Assistance Programs, my AKA Sisters, High Desert Pearls, and Re-Imaging our communities. I thank my wife as well because she put this whole, design and everything together. And I'm sure she has a few words, but Phyllis. I think we're out to a good start on something. All of us on this side, we're out to a start. Our goal right now is the same as yours, is, get Biden in as president. And that's, that's, people say it's gonna be easy, but it's gonna be tough. I'm telling you. This man has more name ID than anybody I've ever seen. So I just want to say thank all of you guys, sir, and everybody that's on. And oh, by the way, Roger, can you text me your phone number and everybody on your group? Now, Roger, you're here in California, right?
Yes, I'm in northeast Los Angeles.
And I just the chat per your ask.
I'll throw mine in the chat as well.
Look at the chat.
Oh, okay. And what campaigns are you working on right now?
Yeah, right. Well, right now we've actually just we've just jumped back on to help Derek Marshall in his second run. We're going to be doing some data management for him. And yeah, we've got we've got some clients all over the place. We're working on the congressional level in Wisconsin, working in Michigan. What was that, Pete?
Well, when you're saying congressional, we've got Wisconsin, Alaska, California. Yeah, those are our congressionals. Oh, in Iowa.
Well,
Yeah.
whenever you have something that needs to go out, actually, we go to 60+ million a day in different areas. So,
Danny.
we're there. We're there to help you. You know, I mean, we're there. You know.
Yeah. And
You
that's
just
a good,
have to-
yeah, I mean, that's a good, it's a good note for prospective candidates out there is, you know, when you when you when you go to folks like Campaign in a Box or with Basil and Lizette, I won't say or, I'll say or and this is you know, this is the type of there is the directive, you know, there is the directive help that and the institutional knowledge that we have from doing these campaigns, you know, cycle after cycle, and you just create this institutional knowledge of best practices, right? But what comes along with that we probably didn't talk about as much in these forums was just what goes along with that is, you know, between Pete, Nicole, Basil, Lizette, and I, you know, you start the electoral world is wide, but it's not huge, and so, you know, everyone starts to know each other within the circles, and we can help each other out, and that is how, you know, that creates a lot of shortcuts for candidates to getting, you know, to getting access to a lot of earned media, to getting access to you know, the right fundraising streams, to the right political connections. Those are sort of like the intangible things that go along with reaching out to folks who have electoral experience. Not only do you get that, you know, what should I be doing on the day to day, it also comes with the you know, the socio-political connections that can help your platform in a big way.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone here. Roger and Nicole and Pete, it was nice meeting you. Hopefully we see each other in person one day. And of course, sir, I'll see you around. I always see you. And of course, Phyllis, I'll be seeing you over there at the MMK soon. And Jacqueline, we will see you. I think you're dark in July, your meetings. So we will definitely see you in August. We have something for the pearls.
Okay.
So again, thank you for inviting us. And we certainly really glad that we participated.
And I just want to say thank you,
Tell your
everyone.
president that I'm definitely coming. I made creme brulee for everybody, but I got to bring it tight for my AKA system. They call me all the time. And then when my wife did the what did you do that for Adam Schiff, baby? The meet and greet, we did she just laid it out platform. And then to Roger, whenever your group gets here, I'll do a French dinner and something for y'all. You know, I don't know if your group likes French food or desserts, but I'll do something. You know.
I love that. Love to hear that.
You eat?
So to everyone who has participated
Phil,
for this event, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone. This was great information. You know, we saved the best for last, right? I thought this was a great discussion. So to each and every one of you, thank you.
And thank you.
From Alpha Gamma Iota Omega chapter, now also known as High Desert Pearls, I would like to say thank you to all of our participants in tonight's event, and thank you for all of the collaborators that worked on this event, Family Assistant Program, Reimagining Our Communities, and Campaign in the Box. You know, through these sessions, I've learned a lot, especially for someone who never had myself had aspirations to run for office. Seems like a very stressful thing, but through it all, you guys have presented resources and tools that could alleviate those stressors for individuals who would like to run for office. And so I would like to commend you guys on that and say thank you once again. And I hope that if we make this an annual event, that you hear the beck and call and you come to our aid. So thank you again, everyone.
And on behalf of Family Assistance, I just want to say thank you all for participating in this process. We're really looking forward to these resources being shared throughout the community. We may have not had the attendance that we anticipated for these live sessions, but believe you me, these sessions, all this valuable information will serve all those who are running. We're going to be looking for candidates, just to get people engaged with this political process. We want to make sure that people have the resources that we didn't have, you know, when we all ran for various offices and things like that. I wish there was something like this. And once again, I want to thank Campaign in the Box for working with us, you know, coming in and doing this almost as a community service, you know, as voluntary, because, you know, this is invaluable what you guys do. So thank you so much.
So, sir, I'm looking forward to running your campaign and Jacqueline. So in the box, Campaign in the Box, we can all get together and get you two elected.
We're there.
That's
So
right.
we're for.
Well, I got one last thing to say before we go. As Army people, we always say it. Huh! Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Oh,
Good evening. Have a good evening.